It took 39 years for a cold murder case to heat back up in Carbon County. In 2009, the Carbon County Sheriff's detective worked on the case surrounding Loretta Jones' death. And after 46 years, an arrest was finally made and the suspect convicted. We shared the conclusion with you back in November. Tonight, in a special Behind the Badge report, we meet the man who took on the challenge and took the time to find justice for Loretta.
When he admitted that he killed her, goosebumps ran up and down me, and I had to control myself because, my first instinct is to get him up and handcuff him and drive him back to Utah.
That is how the 46-year-old murder case against Thomas Edward Egley would finally be solved. But to understand why Detective David Brewer took on the Loretta Jones case and worked on it for 7 years, we need to back up to 2002.
I was 38 when I went to the academy, and I figured it's probably best if I start now before I can't run.
Detective Brewer certainly got a late start in law enforcement. For years, he was a Subway franchise owner, but he wanted to serve and protect, so he sold his stores and became a cop.
It may sound corny, but when I owned Subway and stuff, one of my favorite shows was Cops, and I would get furious watching some of these things. You just wanted to go chase them yourself. Copy, thank you.
A few years into the job, he would get involved in one of the longest chases in Utah law enforcement history.
I walked up to him at the Helper Arts Festival, and I told him that I had something I needed to talk to him about.
Heidi Jones told him about her mother's rape and brutal murder in 1970, how she found her mom stabbed to death when she was just 4 years old, and how the Price, Utah case had never been solved.
It kind of excited me, the whole thought of a cold case. This was my first one as being a detective. I never had a cold case before, and there was a lot of old wives' tales, a lot of urban legends about this case, most of which were exaggerated over the years, but it was enough just to keep you, excited about it.
Still, there were times it appeared the case had hit dead ends.
I remember just crying, and he's like, "It's okay, Heidi, it's okay. You need to cry."
Heidi says despite setbacks, Detective Brewer would not give up building a case against her mother's killer.
To have somebody actually excited about it and somebody that was working it and asking questions and wanted to know more about it, it was a dream come true for me.
Detective Brewer says the case really started to move forward when they found Egley's former girlfriend.
She told stories about, his late arrival at about 3 a.m. that morning, some of his actions and taking clothes out and not returning his clothes that he had on that night.
He eventually interviewed Egley at his home in Colorado.
We prepared the questions carefully and talked to him, and stuff that he would have only known as the murderer in this case, he knew. And so that really kept it going.
Then Detective Brewer made sure that when they exhumed Loretta's body, Egley heard about it and was made aware they were getting DNA samples. He says after that, it appeared Egley knew his 46-year-old secret was out, and he simply confessed.
Then he just started talking and said that he killed Loretta Jones.
But because that happened in Colorado, where Detective Brewer had no arresting powers, he had to leave Egley's house empty-handed.
We knew he had to walk out of that house after 7 years of investigating without the man who just admitted to doing this crime. So it was a tough deal to do. It was hard to control myself, but kind of had to maintain a good poker face and walk out of there, and told him we'd be back in touch.
From a police standpoint, Brewer says the rest was easy.
After that, we came home, got all the attorney stuff put together, and got the U.S. Marshals to go out there and arrest him for us.
Egley waived his preliminary hearings, confessed to the murder of Loretta Jones, and was sentenced. After 46 years, the case was finally closed. And because of Detective Brewer's work, Heidi says she finally had a portion of peace.
And to be able to have a detective come in and do what he's done is just phenomenal. I can't give him enough praise. I really can't. And I know, he'll try to say he's just doing his job, but no, he changed my life. He really changed my life. The little 4-year-old Heidi, she's not so sad anymore.
Loretta and her sisters used to wear a charm. Heidi gave that charm to Detective Brewer when he started investigating, hung it on his police car, still has it there today. Now, if you want to know more about this story, I'm going to have a Facebook Live conversation at the end of the newscast for any questions. There's also more information online with this story. To check it out and nominate an officer for a future story, go to goodforutah.com/badge.
Time now for you.